Hello and welcome back to Angular 2 Masterclass with Alejandro Rangel. In this section, we will start exploring the features of TypeScript with my favorite, the type system. So JavaScript, it's dynamically typed. What's that? That means if we take a look on the slide that we can define a variable, name, with a string Alejandro, and later on in our code, we can say name is equal to 10, and we won't see any error. In fact, we can have this bug for many years in our application, in a live system. And if you don't take a look and start thinking, oh, name should be a string, right? Then you won't notice this because it's a type, it's dynamically typed. So it doesn't matter if it's a string. Then name represents a string. If later on it's a number, then name is type number. So that's dynamically. That's a cool feature. Yeah, I think we have taken advantage of this many times in JavaScript with our projects. But it's true that at some point this is not maintainable. Because you have thousands of JavaScript files. At some point, you can have a variable, let's say filter. Yeah, this is a variable, and then you are wondering, oh, is it filter a number, a string, an object, an array? I have no idea. So you have to check the source code and check where we set the value, and okay, so I guess that is a string, right? So this is a very big problem, and TypeScript comes to the rescue of this with a statically typed system. So once you define a variable with a type, then you will receive an error while you are writing code to change this. So in the example of the slide, if we have the var name and we assign the string, if later on we put the 10, then you will receive an error like this, maybe with a different message, but it will say something like, you cannot convert a number to a string, right? So let's try this feature. So you start playing around with TypeScript. I will show you several ways to start coding with TypeScript, and you can choose one of them just to play around with TypeScript. Later on in the masterclass, we will use WebStorm. So I will offer to you to use Sublime Text, Plonker. At some point we will use Plonker. And now we will code a little bit with Visual Code Studio. So at the end of the full video tutorial, you should be able to choose which of the IDE you feel more comfortable to work with. That's my idea, and that's why I will be changing from one to other system. So let's code a little bit. Again, this is a website from TypeScript. This is a website code.visualstudio.com for Visual Studio Code. This is free. You can download it. As you can see here, it's still in beta. Okay, so it's super nice IDE. You have auto-completion and all the stuff that you want, and hundreds of extensions. In particular here, look, the symbol of Angular. That's nice, but there are many other languages that you can write with. Yeah, so, and you have it for Linux, Windows, and Mac. So let's try our first example of type data just with the playground from the website. Okay, so here we have our first example that we wrote in the previous video of var test. Yeah, so this is a TypeScript, this is a JavaScript generated, you can see it here. So let's use a type system. So we want this variable to be a string. Look, we have autocomplete. That's cool, right? So this is going to be a string. Nice. We can see here, it's exactly the same JavaScript code. Remember, JavaScript doesn't understand about types. So yeah, but if later on in our code we do test equal to 1, look, it's in red. That means we have an error. So type number is not assignable to type string. This is the nice feature from TypeScript, because if you are a developer and you're working with this project and then you try to assign the value 1 to test, then you receive this error before even launching the product, and that's not nice because it's a string. But the reality is that even if we have this error, if we transpile this file, the final JavaScript will be still valid, because what TypeScript does is just get rid of the TypeScript part. So the transpiler will do something like this, remove the string, and then the final TypeScript is exactly the same. But this is super useful for development. So remember, TypeScript, it's about tooling, it's about scaling. Yeah, so do we have to define all the time the type? No, not really. TypeScript is smart enough to infer the type once we assign the value for the first time. That means that we can get rid of the string. So we come here, yeah, and we have the same error again. Why? Because once we assign a string value to test, TypeScript is smart enough to know, okay, so the first time that you assign a value to test was a string, so from now on it should be a string. Let's do the opposite. If we put here 1, yeah, we don't have any error because the first time that we assign the value, it was a number. But if we try to assign here a string 1, then we have an error. Yeah, we are trying to assign a string to a number. The final JavaScript is still valid, yeah, as you can see here. But if you're a developer, you will see the error and say, damn, I have an error. So which types do you have available? Well, you have many. You have a string, as we see before. We have, let's say, age. We have numbers, yeah. Let's say here 31, for example. Then we have cars. We have array. So we can have here an array. And this is a cool feature also. It will say that we need to specify which type of array it is. If you have worked with this, we should say something like this. Cars is going to be an array of strings. This is super nice because then if we do, for example, something like this, this is valid, right? We are trying to assign to the first position a string. But what happens if now we do this? Okay, again, we have an error because we're trying to assign in the second position a number when the array is of strings, right? If you come from another language like Java or C#, this should be natural to you, this way to write code, right? So there are many other types. You can take a look on the documentation, but hopefully you get the idea of how powerful is the type system in TypeScript. So see you in the next video.